Bahamut's palace is a sight to behold, even from a distance. The place is built out of wealth from his hoard, and it's encased in a spinning whirlwind. If you all remember the castle from Final Fantasy II, which you probably don't because who plays that terrible game, but there was a whirlwind castle in that.
There was.
I definitely never played the game.
I liked that game.
Yeah, you would.
Except for that I didn't like about that game.
I like that game except for everything that's part of the game.
What I like about it, but it's on a whole pretty bad. None of the remakes have really fixed it.
And navigating
Good chat.
to the palace, Yathibra is being your navigator, and she checks the wind periodically. And you notice the wind is changing directions quite a bit. And sometimes she doubles you back and leads you on the path that you took. Sometimes she takes random turns that don't make any sense to you. She doesn't seem to have a destination in mind. But nonetheless, after simply a few hours of journey, you do see the palace on the horizon. And as you get close, you realize that the whirlwind is calming down. And the palace becomes stationary and is lowered gently to the ground. Coming up on the place, it is enormous, and the place is built with wealth. Like if a fairy tale witch was obsessed with gold instead of gingerbread, this is the house she would build. The walls are inlaid with copper and ivory. The windows are made of precious gemstones and set into silver and gold settings. The floor, probably only Serenity recognizes the floor, but it's made of beaten mithril walking in, which is more valuable even than platinum. Said to have magical properties, and they're using it as the floor tiles inside the palace. And the place is hauntingly empty as you walk into it. It reminds you of Selûne's palace in the Gates of the Moon, where you know this is the deity's house. This is where Bahamut himself resides, but he will not make himself or his proxies known to those who he does not choose. Yathibra, however, leads you all into the palace gates very confidently, and eventually you do come across the dragons working there as Bahamut's seneschals. Very old and very powerful dragons. The first one you come across is white, and he greets Yathibra, and they speak very formally to each other in Draconic. So Mahogany, it's, like I said, very formal. She greets him with a title that roughly translates to something like the scales or the armor of the Platinum God. And he greets her as a traveler from afar. And she vouches for your group. She makes, in a very formal way, a show of, these are my companions who are here under my care, and I take them under my charge. And they each solemnly vow to leave this place in peace, having not come as thieves. And it's very much emphasized that none of you are thieves. So, Kelian, how much have you pocketed? Like, are you peeling shit off the walls and...
Yeah, are you prying up those floor tiles, mithril?
The camera cuts to me as I'm stealing something. Oh, really? Put it back.
You put it back like all hazard.
Just adjusting it. Yeah, a little crooked.
No, that's more Zook's. That's more Zook's style.
As the conversation with the ancient white ends, Yathibra turns to you guys, and she whispers as she speaks to you. And she explains that Bahamut's palace has 4 exits, one for each of the winds. The south wind opens into the first layer, the north wind exits out into the 4th. So she says she's going to lead you through the palace, through Bahamut's great gardens, out onto Selenia, which is the 4th layer.
Where do the east and west exits lead to? Just out of curiosity.
The 2nd and 3rd layers, respectively. And as you're walking, she points out that there are also portals in the palace leading to, she calls it his summer home, kind of jokingly. But the Platinum God also keeps a palace on the plane of air. Notably,
let's not go there.
as a Ciclon, one of the very few places in the outer planes that links directly to an inner plane. That's very, very rare. So she walks through the palace gardens, and she says garden, but the proper word would be forests. Great trees of all kinds growing here, and the vegetation between. And before long, she leads you to the exit gates of the garden and walks you out into Solania. And first of all, in Solania, winter has set in. Bitterly cold, and the mountains surrounding you look like icy glaciers dominating the horizon.
Look to Riot. Pull my jacket back out.
The mist is what creates light on this layer, whereas it was the stars on the first layer. On this fourth layer here, it is the mist that envelopes the mountaintops, is glowing with a silver glow. And notably, Bahamut's realm does not extend into the fourth layer. The palace simply opens out, and you step out of the whirlwind onto a road, snaking out towards the horizon. And Yathira bids you all farewell. Safe travels.
Oh, just down the road then, huh?
He says, if you're looking for the Plains Militant, you'll be wanting to ask for Steelworth's Holdfast. And she points down the road. Says it's a few days' journey. She says the Grand Monastery of the Order is on this layer as well. But that's not where you'd want to take an initiate.
No, I did not. Well, thank you, friends, for the hospitality.
Cheers.
She says she'll look you up if she ever gets back to Sigil.
Yeah, you're welcome to my home at any time.
I keep it in my pocket. Mahogany.
Yeah.
Druidcraft tells you it's going to be raining hard the next day.
I'll warn everyone. Actually, I don't even need to warn anyone. They see the bullshit cloud appear and like the rain pouring straight down from it.
I'm just going to ban that spell. That spell doesn't work anymore. I just can't abide it. I can't handle it. I can't. Hold on 1 second. Viewers, this is a rare case of Nodal not exaggerating his bullshit. It's what the spell literally says. He creates a floating orb that shows a sun if it's going to be sunny and a rain cloud if it's going to be rainy. It is the D&D weatherman. Very literally. I can't take it. And you're all
It's a
fired.
cantrip. Oh my gosh.
Why do you think I took it?
So are you all going to travel through the freezing rain, or are you going to take shelter somewhere?
I mean, I'll be fine no matter what, because I can transform into something mostly waterproof, but I'd recommend for the rest of you, and by something mostly waterproof, I mean myself.
Well, should we go as far as before the rain starts?
I suppose.
Okay. So you continue down
Yeah,
the
worst
road.
comes to worst, we can just have Riot make a orb wherever.
Right. It's no problem.
Before the rain has a chance to start, you've marched for a couple of hours following this road. One thing you notice right away is that the Lantern Archons are not nearly as numerous on this layer of Mount Celestia. Where they became a very familiar sight traveling through the first layer, you no longer see them. What you do see is a lot more standard wildlife, a lot more animals that you would expect to see in this kind of rugged terrain and this kind of climate. Where the first layer of Mount Celestia was lousy with archons and pilgrims, this layer seems to be largely untamed, or at least this section of it. And eventually the rain does start to fall.
Dinosaurs?
Any dinosaurs? You have no idea what a dinosaur is.
I'll know when I see one.
And eventually the rain does start to fall.
Right.
I'll also be it when I see one.
I really want her to fail this 80 times in a row.
Oh, well,
There's
I've
one.
failed once. I only have 2 level 3 slots.
And she starts the song over from the beginning.
There it goes.
Oh, this time it works.
Okay. And you all clamber back into the tiny hut. I'm marking off the calendar as we go, by the way. That's why we take that's why there's 4 seconds of silence every time you guys take a rest.
Yeah, I figured.
So at this point, I'm pretty sure I'm out of exhaustion and all my hit dice are back, right?
Yep.
We've actually taken the short rests, or long rests, yep.
You guys haven't taken
All right.
damage in quite a long time.
Man, my displacement beads will recharge to save my life.
Literally.
Yeah, I was about to say.
The next day, the rain has calmed down to just a light drizzle. Very cold, but not creating much danger. It does make walking the muddy road a little more difficult. Once in a while, you have to clamber up onto a rocky outcropping on the side of the road where it gets too muddy to continue, the muck sucking at your boots. Eventually you find a crossroads that has a signpost pointing in one direction. Oh, I wrote down the name of this village and then I forgot it. I'm prepared, guys.
Hey!
Ah.
Nerd.
In one direction pointing towards Istor's Forge. And in the direction you're going, pointing towards Steelworth's Holdfast. The direction you're going looks to snake down into a valley and cross a small stream.
Well, looks like we're going the right way.
Yeah.
It's nice to have confirmation, though.
Yep, it very much is.
Oh, I was already pretty confident.
Were you? After how many failures?
Listen, I pushed through those failures. You died.
There's a figure at the stream, stooped down at the water. It's the first humanoid you've come across since you've gotten to Solania. And you realize it's a dwarf, and he's stooped down doing something in the water. As you come into view of him.
Hello?
What you up to there?
And he looks up, reaches up, and I mean, he's dressed in very heavy furs. He's very clearly a native, dressed for this weather. Heavy boots and animal furs draped over his shoulders and his back. Reaches up, takes the cap off his head, and tips it to you. Yells out, "Good morning!" Then he looks at the sky. "Oh, good evening."
Been a bit busy?
Don't have much cause to look up, I suppose.
What's so fascinating down there in the water?
And he waves you on down. Says, come down, I'll teach you to pan for wealth.
Sure, I'm
Mahogany
up
will
for
come
this.
down.
And for wealth.
And I mean, you're headed his direction anyway. I mean, he's only maybe 20 feet off of the road. The path you're taking goes over a stone bridge over this stream. He's just off to one side. And he's kind of pulls himself up onto the riverbank and begins getting a fire going in a small fire pit that he has laid inside.
I can light that fire for him.
You light the fire for him? Do you light
I
the
light
fire
that.
for him?
At least I think I can. Sure, that
Yay.
happens.
Do you tell him you're going to do it, or you just surprise him?
I'll just surprise him.
And he's shocked, and he's sitting down with his flint and steel and getting ready to send sparks into the kindling, and it ignites, and he blows back for a second. I'm better at that than I thought. Well, come down. I've got good mutton and beer.
Say no to that.
Yeah.
And he gets a big haunch of meat going, turning it over a spit. And he's got a cask sitting next to him, and a couple of wooden cups. Not enough for all of you, but he passes around what he has.
What's your name, friend?
He introduces himself as Dadak Mudbasher.
Yadak Mudbasher?
Mudbasher, honest-to-God name from FantasyNameGenerators.com.
Does the mud tend to fight back?
Once in a while.
Depends on what's in it, I guess.
But, no, he shows you the day's take. He pans for gems in the stream. He points out at the mountains. All the stone here. Great veins of rich ore. Gemstones. But I've never been one for mining.
What do you do with it when you find it?
Oh, take it into town, buy supplies, give it to travelers to take back to wherever they go. People have use for this stuff. I only have use for the meat.
You pan for meat, too?
In a manner of speaking, and he chuckles. And as the meat's cooking, and he begins slicing off pieces of it for each of you with a great knife. Again, he has no cutlery or any plates. You're all just eating with your bare hands.
Fine.
And he tells you that he thinks you're fine folk, but the meat isn't free. As I only exchange it for stories of glory in battle. And as he's saying this, he's looking at all of your weapons, especially Serenity's maul. And he's looking with great admiration.
We got plenty of those.
Yeah.
So what
Some of
stories
them
do
are
you all
even ours.
share with him in exchange for mutton and beer?
Serenity will start with the fight at the base of the Tower of Fire after we had she'll kind of step past the point where we were sniping off the guys and get to the point where we're all charged in and started beating down the snake men.
And he is doubly impressed that you've managed to quell the evil in the Tower of Fire. He says he's never been, but he's heard stories of the place, a miraculous place.
Seemed fairly interesting. I mean, walls being on fire but not hurting people, that's interesting.
I remember some people burning.
All right, so that was a good fight. But let me tell you about this other fight we had. And she talks about the fight that she had with Baskel in the pits of the pandemonium itself.
Elsie listens to this and you would have at least remembered.
So, telling the story of the fight with Basquiloom,
In that fight.
now he's doubly impressed that you chased.
Oh, she didn't leave anything out.
No, Mahogany's saying that because he doesn't remember any of them.
Now he's doubly impressed that you chased such a
They're
devil
the ones that got.
to such a terrible place.
Yeah, you're really breaking up.
Yeah, you're all breaking up for me too. Mumble is not behaving for some reason on my end. I'm gonna
Listen
try
to this
to.
break a break.
I'm gonna try to cycle it real quick.
Okay.
Oh, ready?
Let me try restarting Mumble and see if that fixes any problems. Okay.
Hey,
Let me see if that fixed anything.
Sounds better.
I guess a lot of people these days are using Discord, but I don't know anything about it. I asked Nodal about it, and he said that it's not as good as Mumble.
That's
it's good.
not true.
No, it's definitely not as good as Mumble.
No. Disagree.
Uh-oh. Is there going to be a slap fight about Discord? No, there's not. Moving on. He's doubly impressed when you tell him the story about Basquiloom, because that means you chased this devil to an unimaginably terrible place. A place that he can scarcely even conceive of, let alone visit himself.
I count my blessings that I barely remember any of it, but that's down to the river Styx.
And I mean, also listening to this story, of course, is Yulana. And again, she is extremely attentive, like hanging off your every word. Like, this is exactly the kind of stuff she wants to be a part of in the Plains Militant.
Oh, and I see Yolana being excited about. I'll tell the story of what's his name, the Hound Archon.
Osriel.
Cosriel?
yeah.
Getting
And-
murked.
And his no, not the story of his getting murked, but his noble sacrifice in the face of the terrible evil from the slavers, the Marilith that descended upon the party, and how Cosriel single-handedly fended the terrible fiend off.
How do you describe what a
Single-handedly
Marilith
against
is?
her aimly.
Because neither Dadak nor Yulana would know what a Marilith is by its name alone. How do you describe this creature?
Serpent woman with 6 arms.
Yeah, this terrible serpent woman with 6 arms and a blade in every hand, gnashing fangs. I'm gonna make it sound just like the worst thing you can imagine.
Okay. And at that, when he hears about Akazriel's great sacrifice, Dadak removes his cap, holds up his mug, or his small metal, his tin cup. So let's drink one to Akazriel.
I'll drink to that.
Here.
Yep.
And he clinks his tin cup with all of yours. So who all is sharing a tin cup? Because he only has 4. Who all is sharing cooties at this point?
Doesn't Mahogany have his own?
Probably.
Mahogany just picks one up anytime it drops one.
Mahogany, could you ask for a cup out of the solution bag?
I mean, I'm pretty sure I've never put one in there.
Maybe there was one in there when you got it.
Alright. I'll take out the bag and I'll say, a cup.
And you retrieve roll percentile dice.
Okay. 1 second. Here, I don't even gonna make Brick really happy.
You flipped Kelian. Oh my god, you flipped half the
That
party
looks like
there.
68.
68? Alright, give me 1 second.
Listen, we have to make sacrifices in order to roll percentiles.
Okay, and you pull out a fairly standard metal tankard.
I'll say, hey, look at that.
Sure, you'll take it.
Dadak
Brad
thinks
says
that
yes,
is
that's why
a
we call it the solutions bag.
Dadak thinks that's a very neat trick indeed.
They've taken to calling it the saloon bag. Problem, there's a solution in the bag.
He offers to purchase the tankard off of you.
How much?
And he shows you his pan that's filled with flakes of gold and silver and very tiny, almost some of them almost powderized gemstones.
Sold. And I'll trade. I'll take the tankard back from Serenity and give it to him.
He doesn't offer you the entire pan, but he gives you a portion of it. So you can go ahead and add pinch of gem dust to your character sheet, I suppose.
We're gonna use this in the most ridiculous way possible.
He's like, I don't know what this is for, but I'll think of something.
To Kazriel, now that we've all got a mug.
And he looks very, very happy to be drinking out of a proper mug. And you all enjoy a nice meal with Dadak. And his plan is just camp out here under the stars and then get back to work early in the morning. He's not intending to go back to civilization until he runs out of meat. And he's got an entire haunch put on ice. You all continue on the next day to Steelworth's Holdfasts?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Very well.
Well, you're all gonna die. Snow leopards. Got a taste for snow.
Snow leopards aren't real.
They're leopards made from snow. Golems? Snowloams, people call them.
Long rest, hang on. Let me... Come on, 4. No! Wow, everybody just exploded there.
Perhaps you've heard of Posty, the snow leopard.
Steelworth's Holdfast is built into a very narrow valley between two huge mountains, hewn into the walls of the valley itself. So the path you're on continues down into the valley, and on either side in the mountains you see bridges crisscrossing back and forth as the keep swallows up both sides of it. There's a wall at both the north and south entrance, and you're approaching from the south, where the number is 12 there.
Yeah, it's like the entrance.
And as you approach, as you come within eyeshot of the gates, you hear a yell far away from the walls and a blast of a trumpet. And the gates begin to open slowly outwards, welcoming you in.
It is nice being welcomed and being mistrusted everywhere we go. That is nice. Start walking forward.
Okay.
Suddenly arrows.
Yeah.
From everywhere. The place is very well garrisoned. The wall you're approaching, which would be this line here, just beneath the number 12, spans the entire ravine. There's a walkway far up on top, looking up maybe 1,000 feet, and you see men walking the wall. And then there are 2 lower landings coming down, and all 3 are being patrolled. Nobody bars your entry into the gate, and as soon as you step in, the gates begin to close behind you as you approach this gatehouse, number 11 on the map. And 2 men wearing steel plate armor with swords hanging at their sides step out. Both of them on the breast of their armor is emblazoned the sigil of the Order of the Plains Militant. And they come out and they welcome you warmly to the Holdfast.
Hello, I'm Ciclon. My companions, I'll introduce each of them in turn. And our business here is twofold. First, I'll gesture back to the girl and say she wishes to join the order.
And Yulana steps forward and, coming down into the ravine, she slid her wooden sword through her belt and threw her cloak back over her shoulder in order she could look sort of like a little soldier walking alongside you. And this is how she presents herself to the 2 guards. And she steps forward and bows deeply, and she says, "I present myself for service." And one of the guards calls back into the gatehouse, turns around and says, "Little one, you've made an excellent choice. We'll make good use of you." Holds out his hand, and for a second she looks back over her shoulder, looking for confirmation from the rest of you.
Mahogany nods.
Yeah, for it.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
And she offers her hand in his, and he takes it into a firm grip, and then draws her in to an embrace. And says, "Welcome, little sister." And he motions back where a woman has emerged from the gatehouse. A fat, round woman who smells of freshly baked bread. And she's clutching a rolling pin in one hand, and stray strands of hair are blurting out of this tight bun she has tied on the top of her head. And she looks down at the little girl and smiles warmly, reaches down for her hand, and starts taking her away through the gatehouse. Then the guard turns back. Says, "You said your business here was twofold."
Yes, the
Right. For a man named Amuleth?
For a man named Amuleth, you say?
Yeah.
And the guard recognizes the name. He says, "Amuleth hasn't been here in some time, but we are expecting him any day. What's your business with Amuleth? Are you friends of his?"
We were told to seek him by Archon named Kazriel.
When you say the name Akazriel, you see a look of scorn on the guard's face. He says, that is a name that's known to us. He looks at your number, and he says, "Will you be needing beds? Hot meal?"
We wouldn't say no.
And he motions to the gatehouse. Now you see the gatehouse is built as a standalone structure. It's built inside the wall. Off to your left here, number 9, is a stable. And then beyond the gatehouse, you can look through it, or on either side, to see into the yard, which is, at this time of evening, this would be just after their dinner meal, filled with young boys in training. Playing with blunted swords, receiving instruction from the quartermasters. But he's waving you into the gatehouse proper, to walk into the yard, rather than to go around. And bids you all enter.
All right, I'll
Go
enter.
ahead.
Mm-hmm.
As you step out into the yard, faces turn in your direction. Not an unkind look among them, even on the old stern quartermasters. Everyone looks at you as though you're an old friend. Directly in front of you here, 13, this large building, is a large temple structure. The guard points off to the left, the structure where the entrance would be 7 and 8, and then these are two buildings. The front is the building is the main entrance. The smaller building behind it is a 3-story tower with a catwalk leading over to the 3-story tower on 17, and then into the mountain above you from there. But 7 and 16 are your main entrances. He points off to 7, tells you these are the dormitories for the members of the order. Points off to 16 and says, "This is for visitors and pilgrims. If you head in that direction, they'll see you set up, well fed." He says, "If any of you take drink, I hope you brought your own. It'll be quite expensive inside."
I'll say I couldn't help but notice a bit of a look on your face when mentioning Kazriel. What's the story there?
And he holds up his hand and he says, "Please forgive me, but I would not speak ill, even of a former brother."
Former brother.
All right.
And he tells you that the only places that are off limits, he indicates the 2 guard towers back here, 8 and 17. He says, "Other than that, please make yourselves welcome."
Thank you.
So right now it is the sun has just started to come down. So we'll take evening actions first. So is everybody splitting up and going to different places, or are you all going to stick together for now?
Well, if we have a peaceful rest for one, I wouldn't mind spending my evening act leveling.
Okay, so you're going to be doing that instead of...
Yeah.
Okay. And is everybody going with Mahogany, or is anybody else going off to explore?
Well, I'm gonna be really boring for the next few hours.
Exploration probably is tomorrow.
Serenity is gonna explore.
Ciclon is tired.
Okay.
I'll
So
explore too because it's not like
if you're going to cash it in for the night, this is the commons room here. This is the quarters they will have you put up in 23.
Okay.
So coming into the main entrance here, room number 16, is a large stone entry hall. The outside walls of both of these buildings are carved with scenes depicting the exploits of holy knights waging war against the evils, mostly on the prime material plane, and each of them emblazoned with the sigil of the plane's militant and with their patron deity. The inside walls, after you come in, depict the same knights with the same heraldry, but this time it shows them bestowing acts of charity and kindness on people in charge. No longer are they bearing weapons. Instead, they are distributing food or giving sermons to the people in their charge. Coming into room 18 here, stepping into the mountain, there are 4 alcoves along each side of the wall, and in each one is a full set of plate armor on display, each one looking unique. And behind them are ladders leading upwards into the mountain. 2 patrolmen walk back and forth between this room, stepping in time. And then beyond them are the hallways leading into the commons. So, Mahogany, we're going to stick you here since you're going to spend all night in prayer. And who else was going to the quarters for the night?
Ciclon was.
So where's Riot going?
How would I get to 4?
You would have to go into the entrance in room number 7. All this stuff is inside the mountain.
Okay.
What about Serenity?
Serenity's going to go to where they're training.
Okay, that would be right out here in the yard, around this this pool here. Stepping into the courtyard, there's warmth coming off of it. The air is so cold that there's actually steam as well. And they explain that this is a hot spring that bubbles up from the depths of the earth, and the water is crystal clear, and looking into it, it looks incredibly deep. It just disappears into the darkness. There's no bottom to it. But it's also the main source of water for the keep. And Kelian is going up into the temple?
Yeah, Kelian will explore the temple.
Okay. Kelian, stepping into the temple, breathtaking marble hall decorated with towering statues of past heroes of the Order, mainly depicting humans, dwarves, dragonborn, and barrier, who, in your limited experience adventuring or dealing with adventurers in Sigil, those are the races most commonly associated with becoming paladins, with becoming holy knights.
Mm-hmm.
And their colorful heraldry decorates the walls all up and down, tapestries depicting hundreds of noble houses sworn to the Order's calls. And there are some people in here, patrolmen, again, stepping in time, walking forth and back along the Great Hall. And a third man greets you as you enter, and holds his spear aside to bid you entry.
Kelian nods and goes in.
Okay. And you just spend the evening checking out the cool artwork?
Yeah, just checking out the place. Being
Casing
familiar
it.
with maybe a little bit.
Case in the joint?
Maybe a little bit.
I mean, it's a
Like-
place easily of extravagant and opulent wealth.
Yeah. He's not going to try anything
Okay.
yet.
Gonna succeed at things.
And the third man, the one who entered, who was holding a spear at the door, he tells you he knows the stories of all the heroes. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Who wrote goal on the tower?
Dick.
This is one of those moments where Kelian the character and McDohl the player are two wildly different things.
WWKD.
Yeah. Kelian. Yeah, Kelian will ask a question. Why these specific stories are on these walls, as up to what he assumes is many, 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 many stories.
Because the ones depicted here are great heroes of excursions into the Blood War.
The Blood War.
These heroes are men that felled hundreds, if not thousands, of devils and demons. These are men that led armies of Mount Celestia's forces into the Blood War when the Blood War began to encroach on peaceful territories of other planes. And the Order stepped in and put a stop to them. And these are all men that died in that line of duty.
Okay.
Essentially, if it was a religious order, these are the ones they would revere as saints.
The Wall of Failures.
Gotcha.
He says further on, he indicates the large marble door leading off into 14 is the prefect's chamber, the master of the order, and then beyond that is a temple chamber to all of the gods revered by the men who serve in the order. Is that it?
Kelian turns to the man and says, "So, humor me. What would happen to this great artwork, something bigger and more destructive than the Blood War, and you had to lead more forces into battle? Would
He
they
says,
get your girl? Would you build another?"
well, he points out that these heroes are just the members of the order that were raised and trained here at the Holdfast. That this is just one of many keeps held by the order throughout Mount Celestia. And he can scarcely think of a more violent and a more massive conflict than the Blood War. So I should pray for all of us that such a thing doesn't exist and never will.
Oh, you haven't met Rowan Darkwood.
Wow. Wow.
Notably, he doesn't know the name. He doesn't sound familiar to him.
That's good. That's Kelian thanks, man, for humoring him. This basically questions and just continues to see art and be in the temple.
Okay. Riot. Stepping into this room, it is icy cold as soon as you enter. There's a large marble bath in the center of the pool, and this is the source of the chill. And as you get close to the water, you realize the water itself is very frigid. But the room is otherwise empty. There's nobody here yet. There's nobody here at this time.
I'm gonna dip a finger into the water and see how it is.
Uncomfortably cold. It's like dipping your finger into ice water. But it does not burn. It's not acidic.
Okay. I wonder why they even have this here. What does the rest of the chamber look like? Is it just this big icy pool?
The rest of the chamber, marble walls and marble pillars surrounding it. Essentially just what you see here. 2 exits.
Okay.
Stairwells lead up in the south end of the room.
All right. I'll take one of these stairwells.
And going in here, you see empty shelves, hooks, and racks. Where clothes might be placed. But again, the room, nothing in it, and there's nobody here at the moment.
Let's go up here to 3.
Stepping into 3, there's a guardman standing in the center of the chamber. You see a spiral staircase, very tightly wound spiral staircase going up into the mountain. And as you approach, the guard stands in your way. He bids you welcome. He offers his apologies, but the stairwell is off limits to visitors and pilgrims.
I'll say that's fine. I wasn't looking to go up there. I was just looking for anybody around to ask him what that pool's about.
And he tells you it is the Pool of Clarity. It is said that those who have lost sight of their path may soak in the pool, and after a period of time it will be made clear to them, as clear as the waters inside. He tells you if you want, he can have an attendant come in and have you undressed and placed in the pool until Clarity finds you.
I say, I've got a friend who's looking for something like that. I'll let him know about it.
He doesn't bar your passage through the hallway, though.
Okay. So thanks for the info. Do you stand here all day?
He takes an 8-hour shift.
What do you do the rest of the time?
He's off duty that time.
Right. So, and I guess what I'm getting at is, what does a guy do when he's off duty around here?
He sleeps, eats, prays.
Sounds fun. I'll leave you to it.
Stepping into these rooms, these are dormitories. The ones that are marked 2 are male dormitories. The one marked 1 would be a female dormitory. And the end of each hallway is a spiral staircase leading up to a second floor. And this place is abuzz with activity. There's a lot of people here.
Mm-hmm. All right. I'll just stop somebody and ask him, I guess, what they're up to here.
Well, all the men in this area will be off-duty guardsmen. These are either Knights of the Order or these are men-at-arms who are trained by the Holdfast. So they're in their off hours right now. Most of them are relaxing, having just had their evening meal. Conversation. Some men are about to embark off to the temple for the evening's prayer. Other than that, whatever you do around the water cooler, essentially. But nobody gives you any stank, which you're thankful for at this juncture, having come through Heart's Faith and
Yeah, no kidding.
Dragontown. As far as you can tell, so far everybody has greeted you very warmly, and the people that you ask questions to, they even when you interrupt their conversations, they give you their full attention the whole time you're speaking.
Okay. I'm going to see if I can get a dice game going.
And you absolutely cannot. Does not happen.
Really?
None of these men will gamble with you.
I'm not gambling because I have nothing to gamble with. I'm just looking to play a game with some folks.
Irregardless, it is a game of chance, and it is forbidden.
Okay. All right. On my way then.
Looking into this hall, I mean, you passed this on your way in, but this would be the dining hall with the kitchens beyond. And there are still...
Oh, that's what 5 is?
Yeah, there are still some men lingering in here as they're cleaning up from the evening meal.
Mm-hmm.
This is the mess. This is not where you would take your meals. Your meals would be taken in the commons over here in the East Wing.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll leave then.
Okay. And having taken your tour of the West Wing...
Go try and find Ciclon and tell them about the cool baths they've got.
So, Serenity, what in particular were you doing in the yard? Were you going to attempt to join the sparring of these young lads?
No. Serenity was gonna go into the yard, watch for a little bit, and then ask, where are the women trained?
Oh, women in the Order are not permitted to fight, is your answer. The women tend to the hearth and home, the day-to-day operations of the place. The accountants, when need be. They do repairs on the walls and the roads. Essentially, they do the working and the men do the fighting. Did you catch all that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was just Serenity response. Was
That was
Just
That's
standing
not-
slack-jawed in disbelief.
That's pretty much it.
Okay. He doesn't offer any kind of... Like, he doesn't give you a strange look being a warrior yourself, but again, you're not a member of the Order, so he would not. You guys in the door, or rather I should say, Ciclon in the dorms, since Mahogany is doing something else.
telling stories.
Druid things.
So what is it you're doing here in the dorms, Mahogany?
Mahogany is
Not Mahogany, Ciclon. I don't want to talk to Mahogany right now. You're leveling up. You don't get an action. It's Ciclon's turn.
Basically, I'm resting, right? I'm not trying to do anything. I was
Okay.
planning on doing some tomorrow. I was planning on doing things tomorrow.
Gotcha. So the three of you who are out here doing stuff, do you retire at night, or are you going to skulk around at night as well?
Kelian will retire at night.
Okay, if you take a nighttime action, you're going to incur a level of exhaustion for not resting. After full day of travel and then a full day of exploring this place. We skipping ahead to the next morning?
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, if I am anyway.
gotcha. Where's my NPC list? There it is. The dorms you're staying in, wall-to-wall bunks, one stacked on another, and not filled to capacity. There are plenty of travelers and pilgrims here, several other people who are conducting some form of business with the Order. So it's not a cramped space. They don't have you packed in shoulder to shoulder. There are a lot of empty space, a lot of space to stretch your legs if need be. However, the next morning, the place is abuzz with news because apparently the master of the Holdfast, the House Warden Corinu, intends on dining in the Visitors' Commons, which isn't that
Neato.
uncommon for him. Once in a while, he does this, but the rumor is that it's because news of your arrival has spurred him to come down to the Commons this morning and break his fast with a lot of you. So how many of you ignore
Where's
that and
the-
go off and do something else this morning?
Now I'm
Well,
getting-
never mind.
Is this the dining room?
Yes, it's a common area for visitors and pilgrims, but this is where the
Okay.
visitors all take their meals. Yes.
Gotcha.
That's where I'll be.
I moved you to, and feel free to move yourself out if I was wrong.
No.
I'm gonna move Serenity
That's
there
good.
too.
Yeah.
Cafe. And he walks in and it's friggin' Warwinax. Roll initiative.
Oh God, let's go.
That's terrible. Two men enter the room. One is a middle-aged barrier, and he's got a big, bushy, white beard, which is very uncharacteristic of a barrier. Typically, it's not typical barrier fashion to wear a beard this large. This looks like it belongs on a dwarf. And he's actually wearing, in his along his side saddle, a large, beautiful silver great axe. And barrier tend not to wear plate armor, so he's wearing a chain shirt, but it's been colored. The metal has color infused in it, and it has the sigil of the Plains Militant on it. Alongside him is entering a very ancient Dragonborn, a very, very old man. And none of you have much familiarity with the race because they're not super common in Sigil, but just looking at the man, you see the age in his face. His scales are a mottled gray. He's the first Dragonborn you've met that has a variance of coloration to his scales. They tend to have a solid color. His is mottled gray with brown in it. And he's not wearing armor. Instead, he's wearing finery, as would be befitting of a noble lord. At his side, he's wearing a black iron longsword, and his left arm is held at his chest with a sling. You see, your guess would be some injury long ago that left his arm useless. And they walk into the room, looking around, and the Dragonborn. Are you all sitting together at the same table?
Yeah.
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 Okay. The Dragonborn points there. So I believe I will break my fast with that lot. And he begins striding over in your direction. The barrier stands in the doorway for the duration of the meal.
Right, scooches aside to make this dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ciclon makes room.
He sits down at the table. He asks if he knows, or if you know who he is.
Right.
You run the temple, right?
Corinu, I presume?
And he nods, says, I am House Warden Corinu. The safety of the holdfast is in my charge, which means the safety of the mountain is in my charge. This is a grave responsibility, and I take it very seriously. Which means I take issue with travelers who would shortcut through the roads, who would abuse the domain of my Lord Bahamut, and come here without climbing the proper path. When he says this, several of the other pilgrims who an hour ago were excited to dine in the room with Corinu clear out.
I just imagine heads bowed and trays just picked up and moving.
Sewn into his finery are two sigils. One you recognize as the Plains Militant, and then one you recognize as the symbol of Bahamut. And yeah, he puts that accusation right out on the table and waits for a response.
I'll say, it's true enough. Yeah, we took it. We had business here on the fourth plane, and it concerns something that, I mean, look at us. It would take us years to get here in the regular way. We just don't have that kind of time.
He says, he looks at you, Riot. He says, years. You were being charitable to yourself.
I'd like to think that charity is a virtue.
Then he looks over at Kelian. Says, you had not the wisdom to caution your companions against this rash action.
Nope.
Nope. That's it.
My companions and I are full of free will. When we decide to do something, we want to do it. We will decide to do it, or we want to do it. We needed to come here. We decided this was the path to come here. There was no intent on getting a shortcut, but we needed to get here.
Our road is one of urgency. We need it here as quickly as possible.
And your path here, it was peaceful, uneventful the whole way.
Give or take a little natural disaster, yeah.
No, there were some there's some evil encroaching on the lowest level of the plane that we took care of. Other than that, it was peaceful.
You
They call
boast.
that a
but
freebie,
peaceful.
though.
You boast of your accomplishments.
Not at all.
But what is it you've
Stating a
accomplished?
fact.
We protected the mountain. See, we're all protectors here.
There was an artifact in the Tower of Fire, and we made it that it's safe.
The Tower of Fire is a place that protects itself.
What was the name of the the Naga that we met?
Marinoshka.
It was...
And I'll say Marinoshka said we could mention her name as a friend. We helped her out. She was being assailed by Snakeman.
Yanti.
Yanti.
He says Marinoshka is no friend of his, or of the Order. And if she is derelict in her duty in protecting that which the mountain placed in her charge, then she shall be punished for that transgression.
And what about Githzerai? Also derelict in his duty?
He nods. Says Githzerai is found guilty of many crimes. Murder, theft, primary among them. You come here bearing news of Githzerai? Is he dead?
Bearing news of his death.
He did die. Gave his life slavers. Gang called Gendarme.
He says, "You will forgive me if I am not sad to see him go. I cannot mourn the death of one who's not my brother."
Well, you will, but his fight's not over. He came, told us to here and seek someone who would take it up in his stead. That's why we've come looking for Amuleth, is what Wolfsway told us.
Amuleth is an envoy from Arakanor, the Dwarven realms. But he has business with the monasteries from time to time. We're expecting him to arrive in a few days.
Do you mind if we stay here until he arrives? Then we'll be out of here.
I am bound by honor and duty to extend to you all of the hospitality of the Orders of Plain Militant. All of you walked through our gates and were found to be clean of evil in your hearts. Of that I have no doubt.
Kelian
The
raises
mountain's
his eyebrow.
still here, so you must be doing a good job.
The what's still here?
The mountain.
Says, do you make jest at our sworn duty in this place?
No, I told you. We helping you out earlier.
Right,
I'm-
and says, it sounds a lot at the time like he's kidding, but he really isn't. Trust me.
He looks at Mahogany and says, I will not be talked down to by a man so uncomfortable in his own flesh that he chooses to wear the flesh of beasts. A man shapeless and formless, lacking in care and discipline. Were I your judge, I would place you under the care of a strong superior to answer to. Someone who can cure you of your frivolities.
Well, luckily you're not.
Ciclon puts his hands in his face.
Kelian actually cracks a grin at that.
Cracks a grin at that.
Yeah. There's no way Mahogany could say that Kelian not appreciate that.
And Koranu nods in agreement and says, Alas, I am not. The Order of the Plains Militant is charged with the protection of Mount Celestia. We do not extend our jurisdiction outward into the plains, as your factions do.
I thought you did do that when the Blood War extended itself. Or is that an exception?
He asks if you've ever seen a battlefield of the Blood War.
Not myself.
You live your life in a cage and know nothing of the plains. Pray that you never see the day when the Blood War spills into your streets.
That sounds good. I'll do that.
At this
Our
point,
own protectors making sure that.
go ahead.
I said we have our own protector making sure that.
At this point, plates of your breakfast are brought around. A simple ham and eggs affair with cold water in a decanter placed out. And Koranu begins to eat.
Yeah, I'll dig into
Start
my
eating as well.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you get your ham from?
Pigs.
Do you raise the mountain?
And he doesn't answer the question because his mouth is full of eggs.
Chicken stew, I assume.
Is anybody asking any pertinent questions of Koranu?
Let's see. Figure out. I'll just ask him what's been the latest threat? What has the order been up to lately?
And he tells you, blessedly right now we know time of peace. A generation has gone by since the men-at-arms at this holdfast were called to war.
Do you prefer that?
He says, I thank Bahamut every day for this peace. And I despair at our brothers who yearn for action and glory, that they would seek violence.
I agree there.
Yes, they get the eggs from chicken. Gods, I knew you're just... That's where they come from. They're not duck eggs.
What? I didn't say anything else.
You were thinking it really hard,
I'll also
though.
I'll also ask about Yulana. Says, where does an initiator like her start here in the order?
He says that is the purview of Miss Sarah. Miss Sarah is the fat lady that came to collect her yesterday. She's in charge of the kitchens, in charge of bringing up all the children in the holdfasts. That most likely Yulana will begin caring for the youngest of the children, work her way duties up there. Her placement within the order will be dependent on her skills and talents. We'll find out what
What
she's good
skills
at.
and talents are those? She's found to be better with a sword than with a spatula.
To which he replies that he doesn't know the girl, so he doesn't, and it's not his job to assess her. These questions will have to be directed at Sarah. However, I do offer my gratitude for bringing her safely here. Though I do not approve of the path you took, it is right that the girl found the order.
I thought so too.
Have to be of help.
As he finishes his meal, and he stands, he looks at Kelian.
Kelian's not making eye contact with him. He's
Nope.
staring at it. Not making eye contact.
And he says, you spent a great deal of time in our great hall yesterday, but did not step foot into our temple. Are you not a man of God?
Kelian looks up. I prefer to live by my actions and subsequently die by my actions.
Mahogany's eyes light up and he says, have I told you about Lou?
And totally ignoring Mahogany, he replies to Kelian and says, what actions would those be? Giving a bag of silver to the temple of a god you don't believe in? Or taking an innocent life in a dark alley? By which actions should
Ciclon
you be
arches an
judged? Nobody can see your eyebrows. You're wearing a mask.
That's a good name.
Yeah. So he turns to me and says, "What is this now?"
I do what has to be done. All I've ever known And that's all I ever will do. Very easy to sit up here on a mountain, high from afar, and being able to judge people. But when you are in my position, you have to do what you have to do.
He
And
gestures.
just snuff out a life, just to snuff out because of your convenience. One stands up.
If it needs to
we've
be
had
done,
fun here at Vectis.
if it needs to be done, yes.
Oh, Ciclon, you've killed people.
Only because there was no other option.
Well, that's what he's saying, right?
Killing a man in an alley doesn't sound like there's much other option.
Riot excuses herself from the conversation.
Yeah, Serenity's gonna go for Riot
Backs
at
on out.
this point. And she's just gonna lean us for Riot. Why did we want to talk to this guy again?
He wanted to talk to us.
And he says to Kelian, "You are bleeding defenders. Even your friends won't stand up for you." I can scarcely blame the Tiefling. 1 in 10,000 is the Tiefling that can overcome their devilish ancestry. But 1 in 10,000 is the Aasimar that betrays their celestial heritage, that is born with the greatest gift that the mountain bestows, and casts it aside. Again, I am not your judge, but if I were to stand in judgment of you, I would offer you nothing but obliteration.
Man, he gave me a bet on that.
And what does it say of the gods who would abandon such a fate?
It was not the god's decision, as your friend, gesturing to Mahogany, and he uses the word friend, kind of loosely, as though he doesn't believe Mahogany and you are friends. We are all creatures of free will. You cannot curse the gods for the decisions you have made. You're the architect of your own misery. Do you not agree?
Hence why I do what I have to do.
He continues, sorry. When I lost the use of my arm, fighting in protection of this plane, I did not return here and curse Bahamut for taking it from me.